We're going to finish off the fifth chapter, and we're going to finish off this sequence of a Mishnayot of sayings about people who swear not to get benefit from each other. Really, really uncomfortable social situation. In fact, we'll bring out actually some of the discomfort in the last Mishnah of the chapter. But just to recap, we had a situation where somebody said, Harei ani alecha cherem. I am cherem to you, which means effectively you can't, anything I have, you can't use. It's like dedicated property. And they can say this, we can create this relationship in a reciprocal way. Harei ani alecha ve'at alai. Maybe I am to you a cherem and you're to me a cherem. And the Mishnah rules shnehem asurim. They're both forbidden, i.e., he can't benefit from his property, and the other one can't benefit. Neither one of them can benefit from each other's property. And the Mishnah closed by saying that even though they can't benefit from each other's property, they are permitted the things that belong to those that came up from, they are permitted the things that belong to the people that came up from Babylon. That's a category of things that belong to the people that came back with Ezra from Babylon to Jerusalem. But they're forbidden the things that belong to that town. So if you like, the Mishnah is ending on a cliffhanger. Now we're going to pick up the story. What are the things that belong to the Olei Bavel, the people that made Aliyah from Babylon? Okay, Kagon, for example, Har Habayit, Temple Mount, belongs to all of Israel, doesn't belong to a single town or a single person. Veha Azarot, and the courts, the temple courts, there were the court of Israel where everyone could go in, and the court of women just outside where both genders could go in, and so on. The temple has got these, it's surrounded by courtyards, and these belong to everybody. Veha Be'er, Sheba Emsa Haderech, and the well in the middle of the road. Apparently they dug wells. The Mishnah refers to one well, but there seems to be a series of wells that they dug between Babylon and Jerusalem in order that those making Aliyah should be able to drink on the way. First thing you need, if you're going to establish a road, you need drinking water. We're not going through the desert, we're going north round the desert, but we still need drinking water. So these are communal property. They don't belong to individuals. And they don't belong to a particular community. Unlike the property of the town. Remember, the property of the town is going to be forbidden to each one of these two individuals because they're each considered to have a personal share in the property of the town, even though they don't have a personal share in the Temple Mount and the Temple Courts and the well. So what is the property of town? So what are the things that belong to the town? Kagon, Haruchava, for example, the public square, public marketplace belongs to the town. Ve'amerchatz, the bathhouse. Uveit HaKnesset, the synagogue. Interesting. So they have a synagogue in the time of the Mishnah. Ve'hateva, the ark. Ve'hasfarim, the Torah scroll. So all of these things belong to the town. They don't belong, and because they belong to the town, everyone has a share in them. And these two individuals, they can't use any of these things. They can't go into the synagogue, right? They can't read from a Sefer Torah. It's a really, really uncomfortable position. And then there's one more thing, apparently, that belongs to the town. And someone who assigns his portion to the Nasi. And this last statement seems completely out of place. Why should we know that the shul is communal, the ark is communal, the Torah scrolls are communal? Why should someone who assigns his portion to the Nasi be communal? And the Gemara wants to rewrite the Mishnah. Let's just drop down a second down the source sheet. Let's have a look at the Gemara. And the Gemara says, Amai mitzan, Why is it forbidden? And he's talking now about the portion assigned to the Nasi. Why is the portion assigned to the Nasi comes into this list of things that belong to the town and they are therefore forbidden to these two individuals? Amar Rav Sheshet. Rav Sheshet said, Haki Katan. This is what it should be teaching. We should put in the words Uma Takanatam. And what is their remedy? So we got these list of things that belong to the town, and what is their remedy? How are we going to fix things so that these two individuals can go into the shul? Ma takanatam yiktavu chelkan lanasi. They should write their portion to the nasi. In other words, they should relinquish their portion in the things that belong to the town. And then, of course, they both do this, and they've both done this. So now they can both effectively be released from their vow, at least insofar as these objects are concerned. So the expression ve'hakotev chelkol nasi, and someone who assigns his portion to the nasi, is transformed by the Gemara to uma takanatam. What's the fix? They should write their portion to the nasi. Now Rabbi Yudah is going to chime in. So you can see Rabbi Yudah, he already knows this way of rewriting the Mishnah. Rabbi Yudah Omer, Echad kotev l'nasi, Echad kotev l'hedyot. Rabbi Yudah says it doesn't make any difference whether he assigns it to the nasi or to the private individual. And the Mishnah goes back to ask, Ma, bein kotev l'nasi kotev l'hedyot. Well, okay, so what is the difference between someone who assigns the portion to the nasi and someone who signs it? A hedyot. A hedyot is a Greek word, but it just means an ordinary person, an ordinary guy, like a Joe, whatever. Joe, honest. Anyway, just means an ordinary guy, hedyot. It's the modern word idiot is derived from it, but not in a smooth way. So what's the difference? If he assigns it to the nasi, he doesn't have to confer title. Usually, when we assign title over an object, the person receiving it has to perform an act to take on the title. So you'll see classically in a wedding, when the groom takes ownership of the ketubah, agrees to the ketubah, he lifts up a handkerchief and drops it. You can take ownership of an object by lifting it off the ground, by seizing it. Yeah, that's one way you can take ownership of an object. And apparently, if you assign it to the nasi, you don't have to confer the nasi. You don't have to bother the nasi by making him go through this ceremony. Whereas with other people, if he assigns it to an individual, he does have to confer title. He has to go through this ceremony. The sages say they both require title to be conferred. They only mention the nasi because that's the present practice. And we've seen this before in the Mishnah, actually. When there's a present way of doing things, the Mishnah will just mention it. Rabbi Yudah, the Galileans need not assign. The Galileans apparently were very disputatious. So they would often get into arguments with each other and swear that each other should not benefit from, A would swear B shouldn't benefit from them. So apparently this was very common in Galilee. Difficult people, Galileans, maybe because of the hills. So Rabbi Yudah Omer, the Galileans don't need to assign. Because their ancestors already assigned to them, are assigned so for them. In other words, their ancestors already assigned all the portions, all these communal buildings, already assigned to the nasi. Because the Galileans knew that they get into trouble and they had to somehow get out of it. So they organized themselves. So there are certain legal ways of getting out of your vow. And we learned another legal way, by the way, a few Mishnayot ago. We learned that someone could go to a shopkeeper and say, look, Fred has nothing to eat and I don't know what to do about it. And the shopkeeper would give Fred food and then he'd come and and charge the individual who'd offered to pay for it. And this halacha is repeated in what is going to be the last Mishnah of the chapter and the last Mishnah of this sequence. Someone's forbidden by vow to benefit from his neighbor, and he's got nothing to eat. So what are we going to do? So one can give to a third party via a present. And this guy's permitted to use it. So we can organize a present. But it doesn't always work. And fascinatingly, the Mishnah, the chapter, the last Mishnah chapter is always significant. And the Mishnah is going to close on an episode that shows it doesn't always work. You can try to subvert the law, but there's only a certain distance you can go. Maaser Bechoron. It once happened in Bechoron. So it once happened in Bechoron that someone's father was sworn not to benefit from him. We got a family feud here. The father is sworn not to benefit from the son. And the son is marrying off his daughter. So the granddaughter is getting married. Well, what are we going to do? Is the grandfather going to come to the wedding celebration? I mean, you can just picture this today, right? I mean, it's fascinating that these arguments, which are being recorded in the Mishnah, remind us exactly about arguments that happen today. So what is going to happen? Is the grandfather going to come to the feast? Amar lachavero. So he said to his neighbor, Harei hechatzer v'hasudan l'shnim lach matana. Ein befanecha sheyavo abba v'yochal imanu bisuda. The courtyard and the banquet, they're given to you as a gift, but they're only given to you so that my father will come and eat with us at the Suda. They're given as a conditional gift. Amarlo, he said to him, Im sheli heim harei hen muktashim lashamayim. If they're mine, let them be dedicated to heaven. This guy's gonna ruin the whole thing. Amarlo, lo natati lach et sheli eile shetati shem. Sorry, lo natati lach et sheli shetati shem lashamayim. I didn't give you my property to dedicate it to heaven. Amarlo, lo natata li et shelach eila shetehei ata ve'avicha ochlim ve'shotem. You gave me your property so that you and your father might eat and drink, umitrat sim zelazeh, and become reconciled to one another. V'hei avon talui b'roshi, and the sin will be on my head. It's an extraordinary way to think about it. We might think, it's a mitzvah to reconcile a father to his estranged son, but this neighbor seems to be a very difficult person. He says, the sin will be on my head. And we might think that the sages, the chachamim, are going to throw him out. But to our surprise, given how much, even, we know how much they don't like vows, but they are going to back him up. Amru chachamim, kol matana she'ena, she'im hikdisha tehei mukudeshet. Every gift which will not be dedicated if he dedicates it, i.e. every gift which is not an unconditional gift, every gift which can't be dedicated, eina matzana. It is not a gift. It doesn't work. If you want to get out of a vow, this is not a way you can get out of it. You can't get out of it with a fake gift.